Hey guys, today we're going to talk about breadcrumbs. Yeah, I know, it's a crummy idea. Just had to get that bad joke out of the way. So, it's easiest to make breadcrumbs with dried bread. And when you do, you just put it in the food processor. You have to cut it in little cubes or something, swirl it around, and of course, then it ends up coming out looking like dust. And if each crumb is not the same size, no biggie. And breadcrumbs are used for all kinds of things, filling in meatloafs, breading and stuff on the outside, the whole bit. But the particular recipe that I want doesn't want any of my dried breadcrumbs, which is a bummer. It wants fresh breadcrumbs, and you can't exactly tear bread into little crumbs little by little because then the pieces are just too big. So what you're going to do is you're going to tear those pieces, or you're just going to tear the bread and throw it into a food processor. Food processors come in all kinds and sizes, and this happens to be my smaller one. And so I'm just going to tear a couple of pieces. Now, if you put the bread in there whole and big old hunks like that, it's going to get stuck up in the teeth of the food processor. It's not going to grind. And you don't have to be precise. We're not measuring too carefully here. I'm not saying, oh, look, there's a ruler that piece is, not half an inch or something. And you want to fill it up no more than, say, maybe half the way up. And then you just, whatever it is you do with your food processor, I'm going to turn it on this way so that my on-off button is there. And then close your ears, guys, because it's going to sound noisy. Now, that's pretty done, and we're quick about it. What I did was I was actually watching the bowl in the camera screen, and I could tell that the crumbs were pretty much the correct size. So now that I've got my crumbs in the correct size, I just need to put them in a bowl and just sort of hang on to them there. They're going to stay there, and then I'm just going to repeat the process with the next set of breadcrumbs. Now, I was told I needed a certain amount of breadcrumbs by weight. When you take bread and you turn it into crumbs, you don't change the weight because you're not losing any of the mass, you're just losing volume. So I've already weighed my breadcrumbs. I know that when I am done doing this, it will be the right size, and I know that I will have what I need for my recipe. So I've got all my crumbs in there, or my torn pieces of bread. We're going to food process it. Again, close your ears. It won't take long. This is a pretty quick process. And that's it. We're done. Fresh breadcrumbs. Now, when I did the dried breadcrumbs, this is a kind of wimpy food processor. I mean, all the power comes in a little motor that's in this little handle here. When I did the dried breadcrumbs, that bread is actually a little bit tougher. I know it's silly to think of bread as tough, but I had to use my full-scale, heavy-duty, got bazillion horsepower on it, food processor, because if I did not, this little guy here is not up to the task. So these dried breadcrumbs came from a much more powerful food processor. The good part about not having a food processor for dried breadcrumbs is that you can do it by hand. Just throw them in a Ziploc baggie, take a rolling pin, or even just the edge of a measuring cup, and just sort of pound them down there until they're crumbs, and that works out really good. You can also try using it in a paper bag, but the paper bag does tear, and you do have to pound. Rolling doesn't work real well, so you got to whackety, whackety, whackety there. You can't whackety, whackety, whackety fresh breadcrumbs because all you do is end up with flat bread. So the fresh breadcrumbs either require lots of chopping with a very big knife or a wimpy little food processor like this one here. But either way, I've got breadcrumbs and I'm ready to move on to the next step of my recipe. Have fun, guys.